My first goal obviously was 100K a month, and then it was 300K a month. And it's like the bar just keeps moving. So I would love to hit 500K, by September and like maintain it. That's always my goal.
Something about your hustle has paid off.
I am obsessed with Amazon. It's all I've done day and night. Like I started when I was 6 months pregnant. Like I'm not kidding. So like at night I stayed up to 4 a.m. for the first couple months.
What has been one of the most valuable resources for you to learn from?
1% of 300,000 is literally $3,000 a month. And you can make way more than 1% of your margin back just bringing prep into house.
One, two, three.
Welcome to the Smartest Amazon Seller Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Needham. And today I have with me a guest who wrote a tweet that I was like, oh, this is so interesting because it's actually countering what I've been saying, but like the reasons were really interesting where I think I've advocated, like I've talked about the challenges of growing a warehouse. And I was like, well, you could use a prep center or a 3PL. And then this guest in her message said like, well, here's the advantages of doing prep yourself. And so that's kind of the conversation we're going to jump into. And some of the, it's probably one of the newer sellers that we've had on the podcast, started just 13 months ago, approaching 2 million in revenue just on her own. So I have with me Sam. Actually, I don't even know your last name. You're just SamFBA. That's who you are on Twitter. No worries, but welcome to the podcast.
Okay, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Okay. So what's funny is I'm like an old Amazon seller. I've been close to 12, 13 years. And then, you said you're like, yeah, I've been selling for 13 months, not too long. Tell us how you got in, what you've enjoyed about the process so far. And we'll go from there.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. I don't come from like a reselling or arbitrage background. So I kind of discovered it or was exposed to it about 13 months ago. And I jumped on it right away. The business model really appealed to me. And I've always kind of wanted to, become an entrepreneur and go that kind of route with your business model. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely love it. Like I am obsessed with Amazon. It's all I've done day and night. Like I started when I was 6 months pregnant. Like I'm not kidding. So like at night I stayed up to 4 a.m. for the first couple months. I gave birth to my son and I FBM'd in August last year, like a mad person to increase my cash flow. And then ever since then, I've just been scaling. Like that's like my goal right now and where I want to head for my family. I can see it hitting all of my life goals. So I'm just kind of going all in with Amazon.
That's awesome. I mean, like 2 million in 13 months is generally, it's on the fast side. I've met people that have been doing this for like 3 or 4 years and probably like 1.5 million. So something about your hustle has paid off.
Yeah, I would think so. It's more about time, in my opinion, as I think a lot of people assume hustling harder, you got to hustle harder with the right amount of time to grow so quickly.
You mean like in terms of like just like building a base of inventory, you kind of need that compounding effect. Yeah. Speaking of compounding, I think this hits the main thesis of the podcast. So you wrote a long message about like why you do your own prep and how like the ways it grows your profit margin, and then ultimately you can grow your inventory value faster.
Yes, I can definitely turn over quicker.
Have you always prepped yourself? Have you ever used a prep center?
Oh, absolutely not. I have used a prep center. So there was a stage there where it was more important for me to learn how to source, learn how to run the business than it was for me to prep items. I outsourced every single thing to a prep center. We actually moved. So I had nothing. My cash flow, it kind of went down for those few months. And then once I was able to learn everything I needed to do, I brought prep back into house at a rate I could handle. And then I just kept sourcing with items to make sure, it was no sales tax, low sales tax, finding ways to increase my margin in ways that I wouldn't have to like take out a business loan or do something crazy because I'm only a year in. So any rate I could get would just like kill this kind of business because it's not a high margin business. So I was just finding ways to keep growing the business on my own, basically.
And the thing about like selling on Amazon, if you source the right products, you could sell most of your products within 30 to 60 days. That's probably pretty normal. And so that compounding effect of like, increasing your margins from like 15% to 20% to 25%, like those add up and kind of really create that effect. And I bet you, do you feel that was a big part of you growing?
Oh, 100%. Like it's really hard in the beginning to be like, oh, I'm saving $1 here and I'm saving $1 there, and like compounding when you're little. But when you build the habits, like right now I sit right under 300K months, like those little percentages that I built the habit of are now extremely substantial, right? 1% of 300,000 is literally $3,000 a month. And you can make way more than 1% of your margin back just bringing prep into house, especially if you
Really?
do, cheaper items. Yeah. Cause I did like 12,000 units last month, and my husband, he does help me prep in the garage. Like I don't do 12,000 units by myself and run everything. Like my husband mostly does my prep work. Like that's kind of where the line where we brought back in more money. But yes.
Have you ever done, did you learn any other insights from doing your own prep? Did you ever like get a product? You're like, I don't want to sell this product anymore. Like this prep is like not sustainable.
Oh, 100%. Yes. And some items, they're not packaged correctly. And you just learn so much about the inventory, and I can control exactly what item I want to send in which day. And I can switch my mind to FBM that item from FBA if it took too long to come in. So you get a bit more control. Like I would love to actually own like a prep center or a warehouse one day. But again, I'm at that new stage where cash flow is way more important than, taking back that time into my life, right? The immediate influx of, if you just count $1 unit and 12,000 units, that immediate influx of 12K immediately to spend the business is going to compound way quicker than me waiting 3 months or a whole month to train everyone to get on. So once I hit the point where we start to fail and we can no longer, push out the units as quick as I'm able to buy them and sell them, that's when I will take time to get the systems into place to help us. But until then, in my opinion, I should just keep scaling up.
I think you're right. Another counter argument of like, well, like, doing your own prep takes a lot of your time, but maybe that's time well spent if like, one of the other parts of the business is like, it's just purchasing. If you finish purchasing, then you have time for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's the key is time. Like you can't sacrifice anything. So if you're sacrificing some way that makes you money to save money prepping, you're not doing it right, right? The saving money prepping only works if you're able to max out your spend and make as much money as you could. So like I don't have any business funds like sitting, waiting, like it's all growing. And that's the only point it works. Because if you have all this money that you're not moving around, you're just, wasting your time with it. But as long as you keep turning it quick enough, you should generate enough cash flow to basically dig yourself out the hole.
Yeah, I actually like this conversation is relevant, especially like the last 15 months. Right when you started, where profitability just kind of re-enter the Amazon seller conversation in a big way. Because profitability wasn't that hard in 2020, 2021. I'm going to be honest. Like it wasn't, it was kind of a unique time where like margins grew before some of the costs of selling grew. And then last year, you see a lot of, you actually see some large failed Amazon sellers like the aggregators. And so profitability just kind of became like the name of the game. And so I almost wish we had this conversation like a while ago because, you're just so focused on squeezing out those extra margin points. And this applies to everyone selling on Amazon, whether you're, shipping in from overseas to retail arbitrage or wholesale. Like there are spots where you can squeeze out a few extra points of margin. And generally, I would think it's a good use of your time. Do you have any other, things that you feel like are pretty helpful for having this?
Just increasing profit margin. Obviously cashback and like credit card rewards, you can do a lot of damage when you hit my level of spend. With those, they can increase your profit by quite a lot if you know how to, use your points correctly.
It's fun to see those points rack up in ways that you've never seen before. This is like not what I expected. I always liked the 2% cashback cards, but it wasn't giving me the access that I needed. And so I opened up American Express and like, that's kind of been where most of my spend has gone. And so definitely seen a lot more miles than I've ever seen before. So, but generally, like, I feel like cash is king. I want those 2% cashback cards. You're like very transparent on Twitter, just talking about it. And like, you've hit some walls before. Tell me about, like, what does a wall look like for you? And how do you think you're going to ultimately get over them?
Oh, that's such a hard question. There's always stuff that happens every day with Amazon. There's always some listing taken down or IP or um, that kind of stuff. If you mean more like conceptual, I think just growing as a business, being able to see your cash flow and know how to, I call it like counting your money correctly, understanding how the money comes in and goes out. As an Amazon seller, that and account health is all that matters. Like everything else is just kind of, it doesn't directly make you money, but it keeps you alive. So you just kind of do it to keep yourself alive. But like the creating the money and cycling through the products and making sure your account health, making sure you're only buying from authorized distributors, following supply chain, all that kind of stuff is important. So whenever anything like that gets threatened, it's like panic mode. But I've never over leveraged on credit cards. I've never been too leveraged. I've been smart enough to know what my payouts are and to know when to put the foot on the gas and when to slow down. So I've kind of gotten lucky with that.
Now, you said something about like, verification. I feel like that's kind of like hitting a new buzzword now, like where like Amazon is really trying to verify product sourcing, like just make sure that like, this is like a legitimate product. Have you ever gone in the wild and seen any offers? You're like, I can't buy this inventory. This is like sketchy, or I'm just going to get an account health violation.
Honestly not. I'm kind of a straight shooter. I don't use Telegram or anything crazy. Like I literally go to the brand and I literally contact them for their authorized distribution list. I only source from, big well-known stores. I only create accounts. I know it's very common for people to create multiple emails and multiple accounts. I don't actually do that with the retailers, which surprised everyone. I stayed with my main account. I call them over and over again and I make sure my account is good. And like, it's been a year now and I have a lot of my order minimums on sites that restrict new sellers. Like I don't have them on my account because I haven't done anything shady in the past. And it's kind of just been beating my head against the wall until it worked. And sometimes it takes months. Like sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like I'm doing it wrong. But then you just get the accounts that work and then it's just smooth sailing from there.
You told me that you do online arbitrage. But if you're contacting the brand directly, that almost sounds like a bit of wholesale. Does that feel like wholesale, or does it feel like online arbitrage, or is it just kind of like a fuzzy line?
It's a fuzzy line for me because I source using reverse sourcing for OA products. And when I find brands that have a lot that I'm very interested in, I reach out to that brand and try to get accounts with them. And I do not have many brand direct accounts. Like it's all through distributors. So they're just telling me where to go. And I go to those sites and I try to get accounts. And if I can't, I get accounts with them that I'm allowed to purchase from their website in certain quantities during their sales. And then I do that.
What's your like long-term vision of like what you're building? Like, do you have any like pivots in mind, or are you just looking to scale online arbitrage, OA, or whatever?
Yeah, I have the grinder mentality. So I love to scale. Like my first goal obviously was 100K a month, and then it was 300K a month. And it's like the bar just keeps moving. So I would love to hit 500K, by September and like maintain it. That's always my goal. Yeah.
It's June. It's June.
Yeah.
You're looking to grow 75% like in the next 3 months.
Yes. I have really big plans. FBMing, back to school.
I'll tell you what, as my experience as an Amazon seller, the number is never high enough. So I have like, kind of peaked and actually kind of cashed out of our wholesale business. There were weeks where like every day we did 200K a day. And,
oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Even then, like we're like, I want to go bigger. So, it is like absolutely possible, and it's a very scalable business. So I actually believe you can do it. What has been one of the most valuable resources for you to learn from? Like, because you clearly like you were a self-starter. You got educated pretty quickly and to 2 million in a year. What are some of your favorite sources?
I took one course actually when I first started the first month. I took a course that kind of introduced me to everything, and that's where I grew from. And then from there, I've just been basically manic all day, every day learning online. I'm in a lot of Discords. I message people on Twitter. I try to post real stuff on Twitter to like attract people to me who want what I want in life, who have goals. And, it's just this whole new environment I've been exposed to. So I just been learning through that way. And a lot of it's trial and error. I will tell you the amount of, I have failed more times than I have won in this game of Amazon. Like it's just, the wins are bigger than the fails and you just learn as you go.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, like the failures never like fully go away, but hopefully the success rate keeps going up. Well, Sam, thanks so much for just chatting, sharing your story. Absolutely worth a follow. If you can follow her, SamFBA. It was really great to like have you just to talk about like some of those compounding effects. I think it's actually like an important thing for people to like think about right now.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it helps. It's really but the opposite of what you see online. You see all the lifestyle coaching and outsource, and there's a time and place, right? When you need to learn. But once you've learned, you need to bring it back in and before you outsource again, if you want to keep growing quickly without leveraging. Because if you're just going to take loans, but also have DAs and do this stuff, you're not actually making any more money than the seller bring it back in. You're going to have less, but you're not going to see that for a few months, right? Because mine's going to compound up quicker. And it's like a retro effect, right? You got to kind of look into the future with your cash flow.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you. I think we'll wrap up the podcast there. It's been a great conversation with Sam. Thanks everyone for listening in, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Take care.
1, 2, 3.